Ghostbusters!
Welcome to the Dark Horde, episode number 4, part of the UFO Buster Radio Network. I am Manny, Moonraker, your host for tonight. I just want to say I'm your host every night on both podcasts. But last week we missed the mark here because I can't say I forgot to do it. I was kind of like excited about going down to Galveston, Texas to actually be part of a ghost tour. But I tell you that it kind of took over every thought that I had. I was so into this. But then hearing the stories of Galveston, Texas, it kind of makes you wonder what is really going on. Those of you who know me from UFO Buster Radio, you know I ask this question all the time. What is it that's going on with UFOs? What is it that's going on with space, the government, technology? Where is all this coming from? How did this happen? But I also have the firm belief that ghosts and UFOs, they really all belong together. Not just in the unexplained, but there's something about them that, to me, rings true to the fact that they're all connected. Some people might say it might be a dimensional rift. Some people might say that maybe there's something else going on. Something unexplained. Something we can't fathom and put together. Something that gets beyond what we can understand in both topics. What do we do with that? We can't do shit. At least not right now. But we move forward. In working on the Dark Horde, one of the things that I wanted to do was finally take part in visiting a place that has a paranormal history, but then going by what the locals identify as paranormal, and that is taking part of a ghost tour. Okay, that's what I did. Took part of a ghost tour. And I've been to Galveston before in the past. As a matter of fact, one of the places we're going to talk about today, I was there as well. And when I tell you, I was shocked and amazed by what I learned. But not only on the ghost tour, you got to go back. You take a ghost tour, you go back, and you do some research. And that's what I did. There was things that I heard during the ghost tour that I basically had to go read for myself. No fucks are given. I understand. I understand if someone has a job to do. If someone has a tour to do. But can you go back? Can you go back in history and validate what they're saying? That is a true test of a ghost tour. Is there evidence? Are people talking about what happened in these places? And when I tell you, my motto rings true. No fucks are given. If you tell me something, you better pony up. You better be true to what you're saying. That's what happened on this ghost tour. I took the ghost tour, got it done, and I'll let you guys know. If you guys live in Texas, I've seen a lot of Texas people listening. Right? Corpus Christi, Houston, Garland, Dallas, San Antonio, and the list goes on and on. I've seen you. Louisville, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. If you guys want to know about the history of the place that you go, a lot of people go to Galveston, Texas to go to the beach, hang out at the Pleasure Pier, Just chill out at a hotel by the beach, north of the Gulf. True. But you don't know. Apparently, you don't know what the fuck went down in Galveston, Texas. I wish you get the fuck out of there. To be honest, you wouldn't even be there. It is so freaking crazy. So damn crazy. I want to say welcome to the folks who are in the live chat right now. Dave, Greenman, Blue Chicken, Greenman again, Gooter. Shit, I haven't really heard of Gooter in a while. I'm not really sure that Gooter has been participating in the live chat, but scare you too. So needless to say, I was so worked up about going down to Galveston, Texas. And you know, it's a special place for me. Me and the missus went down and decided to take part of a ghost tour. And it was interesting to say the least, right? And I'll tell you, if you're in Texas, the name of the place that you want to do is a Storm on the Strand Ghost Tour. They have no idea I'm doing this. I'm doing this purely because I was taken back. As a matter of fact, I didn't even tell them who I was. It's not like I'm Brad Pitt or some shit like that. They didn't know who I was. I didn't know who they were. I just wanted to take the damn tour. That's all I wanted to do. And yeah, it was fascinating. We actually took some pictures at a particular location, which after looking at these pictures, the unexplained happened. And there was no one there but me, Mrs. Moonraker, and the person leading the ghost tour. Nobody else in the building, especially not on the floor we were. There was one individual on the first floor. There was they had a place there. There was a shop, like a clerk that was kind of tidying things up on the first floor. We were on the second, and we could see the skylight on the third floor, and that's where it went down. It is an eye-opening situation, but it gives fuel to the fact that maybe there's more to be researched. A lot more. I thank you guys on the live chat for coming on. These are the faithful crew from UFO Buster Radio. Let's get on with it. Let's check out this first track, and then we'll talk about the issue in Galveston back in the 1900s. Eventually, I'm going to get copyrighted for that. I just knew it. And I'm going to owe some fucker who's retired from acting a lot of fucking money. But, let's not even talk about that because that's just life. That's life of a podcaster. It's not even here. So we made the trip down from San Antonio down to Galveston. It was a dark, stormy night. And actually, I'm not lying. I'm not even fucking around. It was stormy as fuck. It was raining. It was cold. And we were thinking, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should wait. We should just wait and not go on this tour. But Mrs. Moonraker, being the intrepid soldier that she is, she's like, no, let's just go. Let's just go, Manny. Let's go to this tour, this ghost tour. I said, all right, fuck it, let's go. Let's get in the car. Let's get down there. We get down there, and apparently everyone who was supposed to go on this ghost tour had the same fucking idea. Fuck it, it's raining outside. We're not going to go. We're not. We're not even going to take a chance. We don't want to get wet because it's cold outside. And we ended up being the only folks on the tour with the host, the tour guide. And what I tell you, it was fantastic. And this is what we walked into. There are buildings in Galveston, Texas that actually survived what is known as the storm of 1900. Yeah, 1900. It's 2020 right now. There are fucking buildings who survived this hurricane that no one thought would show up. The story is that the Weather Bureau in the United States really did not think anything was going to happen. As a matter of fact, there was one individual who was a known weatherman at the time, said, hey, you guys in Galveston and Houston, you relax. Ain't shit going to go on. No, not a damn thing. You go to the beach, you enjoy yourselves. It's the latter end of the summer. Enjoy the pleasures of Galveston, Texas. That day, September 8th, 1900, turned out to be one of the deadliest natural disasters in American history. Yeah, the island of Galveston, Texas was devastated. More than 3,600 buildings were destroyed. There were winds surpassing 140 miles an hour. The estimated death tolls range from 6,000 to 12,000, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. No one expected it. They were all having a good time. Everything was supposed to be a very nice day out by the beach on this island. It was nuts. But you can feel it. When you go to Galveston, Texas, and you take these tours, and I'm sure it's not the only tour, but you get this feeling where you shouldn't be there. Like you really feel like you're walking into the past. You're walking into September 8th. You're going back on September 8th, and you're feeling what was happening. And really, what we came across was a feeling of dread and sadness for what happened back in the day. It really is. The story goes that early September 1900, a modestly educated weather forecaster who was known at the time said this: "It was passing west," says Kerry Emanuel, a professor of atmospheric science at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, over Cuba, where scientists had become very good at tracking storms in the hurricane-prone Caribbean. They knew that a hurricane had passed north of Cuba and was headed to the Gulf of Mexico. The Weather Bureau in Washington, however, predicted the storm would pass over Florida instead and end up in New England, which was, as we know today, 120 years later, was fucking wrong. They fucked that one up. They sure did. On September 3rd, a cyclone struck modern-day Santiago de Cuba province and slowly drifted along the southern coast of Cuba. Upon reaching the Gulf of Mexico on September the 6th, the storm strengthened into a hurricane. Significant intensification followed, and the system peaked at a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds at 145 miles an hour on September the 8th. Early that day, it made landfall in southern Houston, Texas. Southern Houston, Texas is Galveston, Texas. Significant lives were lost. The stories on this tour range from people at night on the street known as the Strand, walking and actually seeing ghosts floating above them like if they were swimming. There's stories of people who, from a particular building, which if you look at the item that's the picture for this episode, that specific building, there was a teacher that was actually living on the second floor of that building, and she was pulling live and dead bodies from the waters because they were that high. Over 15 feet. Over 15 feet. If you have taken a cruise liner from the port of Galveston, that strip of street known as the Strand is 2 blocks from it. You're actually getting onto a ship from one of the most fucking haunted places on Galveston Island. Could you imagine some of the ghosts that get on with you on your little vacation? The building is called the Seeley Hutchinson Building. And when you look at the picture of the episode, you will see that it looks untouched. It is a magnificent building in the photos. It is a fantastic building in real life. We were standing there at that building. But that is the building that a teacher known as Sarah was pulling people from her floor, the second floor of that building in the image. She was pulling people from the waters, which had risen that high from this hurricane. It is one crazy story. I don't think that you would ever imagine going to a place where you go to vacation that these things are happening or happened at one time. You just can't. So from the Seeley Hutchinson building, Sarah the teacher was pulling dead bodies and live bodies, trying to save them all. Every single person that came across her window. As part of the tour, we went into that building. Now, Sarah's apartment at the time is not accessible because they're trying to keep the public from going in, and there's rumors of remodeling to erase the past. So our tour guide took us to the 3rd floor, above her building, and we walked over to the window and sat there as we listened to the story of Sarah and imagined her pulling bodies floating and stacking them all in her apartment, trying to save those that she could, those that might be close to death. And she pulled them into her apartment. Sadly enough, 3 days later, Sarah died. September 11, 1900, she died because illness struck Galveston. Many say it was like a yellow fever. But she died. After her heroics from that building, she died. It's a sad story. But we stood there and we toured the building in the dark at one point. It was quite hilarious, really. Hilarious and scary because you feel like something's going to jump out at you. You feel like something's telling you shouldn't be there. Not because the tour guide told us that, because fuck my life. She pretty much was going into these buildings like it was nothing. But you get this feeling of this pressure, this sorrow, this darkness. And we stood there on the second floor, the same floor where Sarah's apartment was, by the iron staircase, and we took pictures. There is a skylight. Actually, a lot of the buildings that survived the storm of 1900 had skylights at the 4th or 5th floor, coming down to the center of the building. A lot of that, come on, what the fuck they have for electricity? They didn't. They used skylight. They used the sun during the day to light their buildings. So there was a skylight. On that skylight, at that night, that late night that we were there, you could see handprints on the skylight. Now, a skeptic would say, yeah, well, fuck, they had to put the damn glass there, huh, Moonraker? Yeah, they did. But in one of the photos, we caught a face. In another photo, we caught a second face. A fully clothed face looking back towards what now is the port of Galveston. Staring at the direction from which the storm was coming. This is photographic evidence, and I've kind of I've wondered if anyone would believe that. I mean, it's not hysterics, it's a fucking cell phone photo, and there it was. There are some things you can't make up in life, and this tour, there was a ghost in our photo. And eventually I'll post it somewhere. And I really wanted to post it as part of the image for this podcast episode, but I think you needed to hear the story first of how we got that photo. And in that floor, in that Seeley Hutchinson's building, there are other stories of people seeing dark figures and shadows, hearing people crying and children crying. The only floor that has anyone in it is the first floor. The second and third floor, there's no one there. To this day, no one is there, but it is open. There was a story from our tour guide that they actually saw a handprint materialize on one of the air conditioning ducts while she was standing there. She caught it on video. She showed us this while she was on the tour with us. She stopped and showed us this particular video. And we sat there amazed, because not only did we hear her explaining what was happening on the video, but we heard the other folks that were on the tour guide as well confirming what they were saying. Confirming what they all were saying as it happened. The stories of this particular building are amazing. Like I said, it is the one of the many buildings actually that survived the storm, but it has shops in it. There is 2 buildings to this one building, so the architect actually made it into 2 separate buildings. So the architect kind of changes, the style changes from one building to the next, but it's the same architect, same one building. And what you will find fascinating about this building is that the first floor has a restaurant and also has other shops along that second building. There was one shop that is experiencing a lot of entities. Now, in modern day, you have a lot of cameras, you have things to catch things, and on camera, they notice a lot of weird things, merchandise falling, merchandise floating in the middle of the night when the store is closed. All on video. There's another shop next to that to where there's been several businesses there. But the paranormal activity in it has been so significant that folks do not last there more than several months. In fact, one of those was a game room that was set up for that Strand Avenue, that Strand Street. And when we looked in the window that night, there were 2 fucking video games. You can't have a video game shop where people go in and play video games with 2 fucking video games. what the tour guides told us is that that's the way it's been since they opened a few months ago. They haven't been able to get more than 2 in there because of the activity. But there's more than that. There is a section, there is a home deeper in to Galveston, Texas, where they call that the gateway to hell. It is a house where there's been known to be some satanic rituals to where people just don't go. Not anymore. Because it's been known for folks to take pictures there on their phones, bring them home, and have some really bad things happen to them. Horrific. It sounds like my place to go. I'm not going to lie. I did want to go there, but our tour guide went there one time and had some really bad stuff happen to her. And she said it didn't stop. It didn't stop until she deleted the images on her cell phone. And she will not return ever again. She has made it a promise to herself not to indulge in that kind of darkness anymore. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Galveston, Texas is one of the scariest fucking places on Texas. If you're here, you've got to go. We're going to go back to check out some of that crazy stuff. Guaranteed. I got a little bit more for you, especially you guys who like to shop at Walmart. I've got a good one for you. Thanks to Galveston. You know, when I started the podcast, I said, hey, I'm not going to sit here and tell stories. That's not what I want to do. My thing really is the current day stories, the stuff that's happening today. But the thing is that Galveston, Texas has a story to tell that just will not freaking quit. That's the way it is. This thing is, Galveston, Texas is haunting the shit out of fucking people even today. You cannot escape what's happening. I'll give you an example. There was an orphanage, St. Mary's Orphan Asylum. And when it says asylum, you're fucked. I'm going to put it out there. I'm not even playing. When you hear the word asylum, why would they even put an orphanage together with a nerve asylum? I don't know. It's scary. This place was one of the places that was impacted by this particular hurricane of 1900. In the worst way. And here's why. There were 93 children that were living at the orphanage. And they were cared for by 10 nuns. And on September 8, 1900, when that Category 4 hurricane hit, the nuns did something that maybe it was courageous. Maybe it was because they felt that that's what God told them that they needed to do. Maybe that's what they thought needed to happen to save the children, because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to save the kids from this fucked up hurricane that was about to devastate the entire fucking island. The nuns tied a clothesline to each of them at their waist. And then they tethered to themselves at the wrist 6 to 8 children apiece. Just imagine that. You have one nun attached to about 6 to 8 children, and then another nun attached to more. Their aim was to survive the hurricane together, nuns and children, all together. The orphanage/asylum was completely destroyed. Much of the orphanage was swept out to sea. All of the entire group, out of the entire group, 10 nuns, 93 children, only 3 boys survived. They survived because they climbed onto a tree that was floating in the Gulf of Mexico. The day after the storm, they made their way back to land. The nuns that had tied themselves to the children, many of them were buried in the sand. The story is that one of the searchers that was out looking during that horrific storm found an elbow sticking out of the sand and dug it up. And by digging up that body, they found a string of children and nuns all tied together, buried in the sand. Can you imagine that? What a horrific death that is. It's sad. So sad. Green Man on the live chat for the podcast just said that apparently in San Jose there is a Toys R Us that's haunted. For Green Man, where this orphanage stood, this orphanage, St. Mary's Orphanage Asylum, now stands a Walmart. Yeah. Did they not? I don't know. I hate to laugh, but fuck. Did the folks at Walmart not even think about how did they get that land so cheap? I'm just saying. Sometimes disclosure is a bitch. So Walmart now stands where the orphanage is. And it turns out that many of the employees are reporting, not just the employees, actually people who go into shopping at Walmart, specifically in the toy section, find themselves surrounded by children crying, toys turning on which are not battery powered, missing merchandise, whole pallets of merchandise just missing, which they just counted for in their inventory, just gone. There are videos on the internet, on YouTube, that you can search where people are actually going in and experiencing the paranormal at this Walmart. Now, I'm going to tell you, 2 years ago, I was in this Walmart. I had no idea about it, but fuck my life. I was definitely not in the toy section. But now I want to go. Now I want to go there and sit there with my spirit box and just wait. Just wait for it. Wait for it to happen. But if you search YouTube for the haunted Walmart in Galveston, Texas, you will find the videos. And the videos are bananas. There are kids who have heard the story and are actually going out there to try to do their own paranormal investigation and recording it on their cell phones. Because, fuck my God, everybody's got a cell phone, even kids. So everybody's into it. So 90 of these children might be still there at that Walmart, thinking that they're still home at the orphanage. Isn't that scary? In the videos, you'll see things. You'll see things falling off the shelves. You see toys turning on their own while people just walk by or just stand there. There was one video where someone was actually picking up things, putting them back on the shelf and waiting because they were being tipped off again and fall right back down to the floor. They caught it on video 4 times while they stood there. This may or may not be paranormal to you, but fuck, that is some fucked up shit. I'm telling you. I understand falling prices, but falling merchandise? I don't know, Walmart. You may have decided to purchase your spot in the wrong place. Dave says ghost child labor is against the ghost union and ghosts will strike and not haunt anymore. I think ghosts give no fucks. They have nothing else to do. They're dead. Gooter says, why not haunt at McDonald's? I don't know. Probably because ghosts don't have to eat. Probably because they don't have to eat. I'm going to give you the specifics of this particular tour. Like I said, they don't know I'm doing this. They have no idea. Hell, they don't even know who the fuck I was. To be honest, they have no clue. But the tour, what I like about it is it was very honest. It was true to form. There were no special effects. You actually walked the entire area for 90 minutes. And you took in every single building. You took in its histories. And nothing more than that. There were no special effects. No funny ghost noise. They did what they had to do. They had to show you what they needed to in order to get you where you needed to be. So we're going to talk about some of the places that we visited on this tour. So that way you get the idea that Galveston is not the sweet place. It's not a vacation spot. Pirates used to have brothels on this particular island. And even they caused a lot of death and misfortune for the island inhabitants. So it's just crazy all around. to the last part of the story, I'll take you through some of the places we visited and some of the history that we heard during this tour. And it's called the Storm of the Strand Ghost Tour. The one thing that you got to know is when you go into this particular tour, any part of Galveston, there is a plaque. There is a plaque that's kind of like it's a metal plaque that's placed on the buildings that survived the storm of 1900. It's very visible. It's unmistakable. And let me tell you, not all the buildings down there have it, but there's a significant amount, especially if you're on the Strand, which is the strip that's about 2 blocks away from the current port, where you would take a cruise from modern-day Galveston. If you look it up on the internet, you'll see that plaque. It'll say it survived the 1900 storm. And these are placed on the buildings that are still here today. There are some places that you will visit on any tour, and I'm sure any tour actually that's part of the Galveston area will follow these particular places. The first one is the Tremont House. The Tremont House has been visited by folks like dignitaries, politicians, soldiers, even presidents have come in. But apparently some never really checked out the halls of this particular place. And I actually, with the part of the tour is actually, we stand outside the Tremont House. One of the things that I noted was that the place looks brand new. It looks like someone just put the fucking place together and they just got it together maybe in the last 5 years. It is immaculate. There's nothing dingy or nasty about it. It looks like a brand new fucking building, but don't be mistaken. People who have stayed there, they hear crying, sobbing sounds in the stairwells and in the halls. They feel spirits. Our own tour guide felt that when she walked the halls of the Tremont, she could feel the spirits on her. Not one, not two, but a crowd of them trying to reach out to her. Many people have seen a Civil War soldier marching up and down the lobby in front of everybody to see. In fact, a lot of people have taken pictures with him, thinking that he was part of the hotel. There is also a rumor of a little boy within the hotel, a ghost child, if you will, that runs out to the front of the hotel. And people think that he's there to help them. And many feel that it's an employee's child that's helping out for the day. Like, bring your fucking ghostly kid to work day. I don't know what it is. But people see him and believe that they are part of the program. The Civil War soldier and this child are one of the folks that, or ghosts, should I say, that people see the most. People have checked in, taken pictures of the Civil War soldier, and then asked the manager about it. Why is he out there? He's pretty cool. What does that mean? And there are no answers other than it's a Tremont. We are host to many ghosts, and you have been with one just now. It's a scary place. It really is. The Seeley Hutchinson, of course, the one I just talked about, Sarah, the teacher who was saving people, bodies, dead or alive. She made the valiant effort to be, she was a hero, saving bodies from that building. It's so sad. But on this tour, you get to go into that building. You get to see. You get to look at the shops that reported all these hauntings. Like the game room shop. Like the clothing shop. That held all these videos of things flying off the shelves. Some even floating in the air. Then you get to hear the story of John Lafitte, the pirate. John Lafitte actually built the first city on the island of Galveston. It was home to over 1,000 pirates. But they were not alone. It was just the pirates. I mean, if you're a pirate, you need to party. This was known as one of the first sin cities, thanks to John Lafitte, because the pirates didn't come alone. They had prostitutes, brothels. They had to have fun. This was the pleasure island for them. His home was known as the Maison Rouge. It was surrounded by a moat for his protection. You know, the shit you see in the fucking movies. Yeah, he had his own fucking moat around his house because people wanted to kill his ass. Today, the Maison Rouge is haunted. But back then, some in the government did not care for Jean Lafitte, the pirate. So the U.S. Navy ordered Jean Lafitte to evacuate the island. But he felt that the island belonged to him. He felt the Galveston Island belonged to Jean Lafitte. And because of that, it had to burn. Jean Lafitte burned. He burned the island of Galveston on his departure, killing several hundreds of people while he exited. Legend has it that Jean Lafitte buried some treasure on the west end of the island under an area called the Three Oaks Trees. People today still go looking in the area trying to find Jean Lafitte's treasure of doubloons. No one's found it yet. What we do know is that back in 1823, story has it that Jean Lafitte returned to Galveston. Not alive Jean Lafitte, a ghostly Jean Lafitte. He returned to fight in a sea battle off the coast of Central America. These are the things of legends. These are ghostly things. Things that I don't know. You can't just make these things up. It's just weird. The first stop on this particular tour is the Railroad Museum. The Railroad Museum at its height had over 40,000 people a day travel through it on their way to bars, casinos, and brothels. Because brothels were, even after Jean Lafitte, brothels were the thing in Galveston. Into like the 70s or 80s. Yeah. People were getting nasty down there. There was an engineer by the name of William Watson who would entertain folks as they were coming through the Railroad Museum. One night he slipped and he was decapitated on one of the railroad tracks. His head was found about a mile away by one train. The first train that hit him had his head hanging from the bottom of the train about a mile away. The train that was following that train found his body. There are people who say that he wasn't necessarily a railroad engineer, but he actually was part of the crew of boats that were docked at the port. Either way, the Railroad Museum had a really dark history. Sometime later, one of the floors was being used by a medical facility for those that were mentally challenged. There was a prominent individual from Galveston who would take their child there, their daughter, to this particular facility. And one day, she jumped. She jumped from the 6th floor and died. Modern day history indicates that in the 80s and 90s, many people were calling the local authorities because they would see someone jumping committing suicide from that building. But no one was there. When the authorities arrived, there was no one. No bodies, no jumpers. The stories on this particular building continue on and on. Folks dying. Trains being haunted. Railroad engineers walking through this building at night. This place is haunted. Galveston, Texas is known for paranormal activity, paranormal investigators, and the hits go on and on. There is a shop across the street from the Hutchinson where a criminal came in and tried to shoot the place up. And they died. The shop owners, from time to time, hear gunshots and screaming in this particular hotel. I'm sorry, this shop, which is across the street from the Hutchinson Sealy. There are so many stories of children walking the Strand from a nearby graveyard. There is an area which historically has been pictured to where there was a point where there were so many dead bodies in the area that they stacked them on there. All the bodies stacked up high. They didn't know what to do with them. They decided to take the bodies out in barges from the port and dump them in the ocean. The bodies all came back in the tide. They were worse than when they first went out. Galveston, Texas has a really dark, really strange feel to it now. Really strange. But if you are in Texas and you want to take a tour of some scary ass shit, that's where you want to go. I promise you. That's the place. Hey, this is the end of the podcast, episode 4, and I hope I was able to get across to you guys the crazy shit that I went through when I went on this ghost tour. And I promise you, if you guys are into the paranormal, take the time to visit your local area, Visit the places that are people are saying is haunted as fuck. Listen. I was sad that I didn't take the ghost box with me, but I honestly thought that someone who did a ghost tour was not going to be like, hey, bring out your ghost box. Let's get to it. Come on. No, this individual was happy about it. We took pictures, we took videos, and it is what it is. Can you explain this? No, can't explain it. Some people say that people, when they suffer a horrific death, unexplained, or they leave something behind, there are things that they had to do, will haunt the place. I don't know what it is. I have no opinions on that. But I know what I caught. I know what I felt. And this person that was delivering the tour script was not in any way trying to make us feel scared at all. These are things we picked up on ourselves. These are things that we pictured and saw. And part of that might be your imagination, right? Because you're trying to see the teacher Sarah pulling bodies from that second floor apartment, and it's hard. It is hard, especially if you've been through a hurricane or you've been through a natural disaster. You can see something like that happening because that's the human condition. We are victims of nature. Nature does whatever the fuck it wants when it wants. And fuck, it's no surprise that they couldn't get the fucking weather right in Galveston, Texas in 1900. Fuck, it's 2020. We still can't get the shit right. So there's no surprise there. What's the surprise for me is how things have lingered for so long. How you can go on YouTube today and find videos of activities at a local Walmart that can trace back to the fact that they're sitting that property. That same property belonged to the St. Mary's Orphanage / Asylum. You can't hide the facts of history, but you can definitely take a chance to go in and just fucking investigate it. Make that connection. We've all had those situations, especially as children, where we felt scared as fuck. We would hear our parents tell ghost stories of things they experienced. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter what your upbringing was. You go through those. I promise you. There's been people who are not religious that I know of that still have the same situation happen to them. But to them, it's a bit unexplained because they don't believe in anything. So I challenge you. Go to your local area. Visit with someone that knows, a historian that has stories. Get the inside track on it. Listen to them. Take the tour. And then we'll go back. Don't just believe shit. Don't believe the shit that people tell you. Go back and investigate it yourself and find the truth in what they say. And then watch your mind race. Watch you go back to the pictures you took, the videos you took, recordings, whatever you did, and try to see if you found something, some kind of artifact. You may not that time, but you will eventually. I think we were fortunate on our trip to actually find something that was not part of the tour, not affected by lighting. We were effectively about 3 floors down, 2 to 3 floors down from where it happened. We were just shooting at random when we found this. Not directed by anybody. No one told us we needed to take the pictures there. We just did it, and we found something. Dave says shadow people. On the tour, they talked a lot about shadow people. A lot. And a lot of people who go on the tours actually seeing them. There's just no way to explain it. There's a lot of things in life that you can't explain. They just are the fuck what they are. But you can investigate it just like anybody else. Venkman. Yeah. And if they ask you if you're a god, for God's sake, say yes. Ciao.